some people that will be with us on stage this afternoon. First of all, I'd like to call Mr. Neil Slaven, Commercial Manager of EasyJet. Mr. Manolis Psaros, Managing Director of Topos Sofi. Mr. Jonathan Meiri, founder of Travel Startup Forum in Israel and CEO of Superfly. Amiad Soto, co-founder and CEO of Guesty. We will all discuss those startups today. We'll know exactly whatever you're doing, not only the logos. Ben Frumin, founder of Rumor. And Ms. Tal Shoham, co-founder of Evolero. Okay, before we start, we'll have a short video. Would you like to present it, Mr. Slaven?
Sure. Great, thank you, Amit. We've got a short video just showcasing some of EasyJet's operation. It should last 3 or 4 minutes. Hopefully it'll wake us up after lunch.
That was EasyJet video, and ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Black Friday panel. And before I start to hear what those gentlemen and the lady is got to say, just a short introduction. As you know, this thing is happening right now in Tel Aviv. We are sitting in the heart of Israel, and it's no surprise because we're Israelis, we're Jewish. We like to pay less and get more. Basically, it works everywhere else in the world like that, but we like to say that we're Israelis, and that's the way we like it. For us, we treat this phenomena of low-cost carriers in the last 5 years as an amazing thing that happened to us. I don't know if everyone knows the numbers, but they're really amazing. Neil will be able to elaborate maybe. But we are running after the low-cost carriers like crazy people. And this panel, we will try to figure out if this is only for flights or if we're already in this stage of looking for other tourism parts of our vacation as like low-cost parts as well. So first of all, we can have it, I think it's an open discussion and anyone can add whatever they want, but before that, please, everyone, please introduce yourself and your company that you're representing. You don't have to do that, everyone knows it is EasyJet.
My name is Ben Frumin. I'm one of the founders of Rumor. Rumor is a marketplace for travel. It's like StubHub if you're from the US, or like eBay if you're from the world. It's a place where someone can go and post their room for sale, their hotel room, if they couldn't make it and they had to cancel, but it's non-refundable. So just a real-life example, I just traveled to New York for work, and whenever I travel to New York, I book a hotel room from Rumor. And that's a hotel room from somebody that booked on another website or from their local travel agent. They couldn't make it, they couldn't cancel, and instead of losing $500 or $1,000, they put their room up for sale. Basically other people can go and book those rooms from them. So it's brand new hotel rooms, but half the price. That's Rumor.
Thank you. I'm Manolis Psaros. I'm the Managing Director of Toposophy. Toposophy is a tourism consultancy and destination marketing agency. We used to be a tourism consultancy exclusively in the past, but we have been recently merged with the biggest digital agency in Greece. So we pretty much offer 360 services to our clients, and 90 to maybe 99% of our clients are tourism boards and destination marketing organizations, and we cover all range of services from destination planning and development to destination management and destination marketing.
Hi, my name is Amiad Soto. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Guesty. And Guesty is basically a management service for vacation rentals, focused on Airbnb at the moment. We started this idea, me and my twin brother, out of our own need as Airbnb hosts. We just realized this is like a full-time job to run your Airbnb business. And we wanted to outsource it to a third-party company, and since we couldn't find one, we created one ourselves. To make a long story short, we got funded by Y Combinator, moved to the Valley, and scaled the business worldwide. We're now operational in 35 countries.
Nice. I'm Tal. I'm the co-founder of Evolero. Evolero is, and maybe we are helping organizers build socially connected events. And maybe you heard me before. I shared with you the fact that the conference and meeting tourism is reliable for $175 billion generating per year. So it's a big business, and we're in the business of democratizing this service. It's hosting, organizing events is perceived as something very professional. And Evolero and a lot of other solutions around events are contributing and helping individuals, small companies start organizing events that are international in their characteristics. And that is a huge opportunity for cities, for municipalities, for countries to host and attract more business tourists, which have obviously a lot of impact on this economy.
My name is Yonatan Meiri. I'm the CEO and founder of Superfly.com. Superfly today is a data analytics company. We build profiles on consumers, and when you have enough profiles, you have a good handle on the market, and we sell that data to financial institutions, largely hedge funds. We also operate Superfly.com, which the initial goal was to build a better kayak, a kayak that is more personalized, a flight search engine that includes your miles and points, itineraries, etc., in order to provide you a better experience. So if you guys are heavy business travelers, sign up to Superfly.com.
Thank you, everyone. Now let me tell you a short story. A few days ago, we had an article on Ynet, my website, that said that we quoted some other source suggesting some Chinese carrier would offer standing places in airplanes. Maybe some of you have heard of it. No one knows how it works and what confirmations will they get for this kind of flights. But they're going to offer it for $1.50. Far from being reality, but the question is, and this is going to be like the first question here, how low would the customer go for a low price? And maybe the guy from the hotel and the rooms for rent will answer first. How low can we go when it comes to low cost?
I think it really depends on the customer segment, but we definitely have a very, I think today we have a lot of very smart shoppers when it comes to travel. Very tech savvy, but also very travel e-commerce website savvy. And so we do have a lot of travelers that I would say are willing to go very low, but also know how to secure a great deal. Then we have the ones that are not as smart and not as travel website savvy, and they're still, I would say, they're still finding their deals on the mainstream and market leading websites like a lot of the aggregators and metasearch websites, but the smarter tech savvy ones are really, they know how to find their way to all sorts of coupon aggregators and membership websites and all sorts of unpublished fenced off deals that you can only find on mobile or on all sorts of social websites that have direct connections to the hotels, especially within boutique hotels. Chains of brands is very different, but so I definitely think there are a lot of smart travelers that can find very cheap deals and still show up to the hotel and have a place to sleep at night.
Amir?
Well, I believe it's an economic question of supply and demand. Our job as offering services for those people is to enable the economic equation to allow lower prices, but eventually it's a matter of will there even be demand for the services at those prices. So we see a lot of people who are opting for more expensive properties on Airbnb versus hotels just because it's enabling them a different experience. So it's not always a question of the price, it's also a question of what's the experience they're getting for it. And I guess that some people are opting in for price, and it's just a matter of what they're getting for it. And there will always be those people who are looking for low-cost opportunities. And Airbnb, as one of the marketplaces was available, has always had a good benefit of enjoying those people as well. And I think there is a demand for low cost, but there is also a demand for unique experiences, and this is kind of the businesses we're trying to create here.
I think Amiad is spot on here. I think it's not an issue of being cheap, but people are valuing things differently. In the past, going on a great vacation would mean getting a great flight and a great hotel, and those were the things that you wanted to spend money on. Now it's about, wow, I had this great experience in Tel Aviv, or I met these amazing people, and I think there's a change or a shift in the value system. So it's, and then suddenly, you know, if I need to stand up in a plane and get a cheap ticket, I don't care, because it's not important for me. But if I want to get an amazing Airbnb room so I can hang out with all my friends and maybe meet new people, I'm willing to spend for that. So it's really an issue of shifting priorities.
I have to also add that if you look at the business tourism aspect, then we see, I mean, many of our clients across the world have events that are medium-sized, for example. So their attendees might be business people, internet, innovation, whatever, and they're looking for, yes, sometimes cost-effective flights or tourism in general because they're entrepreneurs. But there's the effectiveness element as well. So they want low cost, but it needs to work with everything they have because they have a business schedule. So that's an interesting area where low cost goes in, but in a different way. So maybe putting everything in one place and making sure the schedule works is an interesting challenge that I'm not sure was solved by now.
All right. Neil, what is right now the percentage of the low-cost carriers in the world?
Well, I'm afraid you've caught me out with that question. I don't have that stat on the top of my head. But what we do know is that the proportion of low-cost carriers across the world is growing all the time. There's a distinct consumer appetite for the low-cost business model. To come back to your previous question, I think there will always be a spectrum of different preferences and demand requirements in the market. Not every consumer will want to travel low cost or stay in a hotel that's low cost. And there's always going to be demand for high value accommodation and high value travel as well. I think some of the great stuff that's going on here and that's represented by my colleagues in the panel is using technologies to give the consumer transparency around the choices that they face, informing the consumer and making a very savvy consumer that can make decisions based on a lot more information than they would have had in the past. And low-cost flights are no different. EasyJet has been a technological pioneer. We were one of the first adopters of the use of internet, cell air travel, and we use that to drive down costs. We use technology to drive down costs across the business. We currently have about 10 million downloads of the EasyJet app, which is very popular across our passengers.
Yep. Now, next question is to you, Manolis, and to you, Neil. If you recognize some peak point of the usage of low-cost carriers and low-cost vacations in general.
Probably I'm not the best person to speak about the low-cost carriers, since this is not the part of the industry I've worked before. But I think the most important thing is for consumers, and this is a universal conclusion. It has been always about paying the right price for the right product and the right service. So it's not a matter only about finding the lowest price for what is available, but finding the right price for what you're willing to pay. And if we want to connect this with the geo-demographic shift, we see that the millennials, which is the demographic group from 18 to 35 years old, are much more willing to spend with a purpose and spend most of their available disposable income in the experiential part rather than on the transportation and the transfers part. That's a major shift that we're seeing. So we're not really having main differences when it comes to the overall budget they spend on a destination. What really changes is where they choose to spend it. And the last 5 years, and we expect this to grow even more in the future, we see that they tend to spend much more money on the destination, going off the beaten path, out of all-inclusive deals, instead of following the previous consumption pattern of all the generations.
Yeah, I would add to that and say that the discussion should be seen, in my mind, in terms of value rather than cost. EasyJet, we fly to primary airports, we fly to the main airports around Europe. We have a very young Airbus fleet. These are things that our passengers value. We have great fares as well, but we believe that people value the product on board, and we offer very comfortable and a product which we find that well over 90% of consumers, when they try us once, they come back again and again. So it's about that value proposition. It's not just low cost, it's what you're getting for your money.
No, we know you're doing pretty good, but not all of the low-cost carriers survived. And some of them already, correct me if I'm wrong, not exist. And some others doing not that good. What does it take, and what are the basic things you have to have as a low-cost carrier in order to continue working in this field? Because, you know, lowering prices is, for the customer, maybe it's the most important thing and the most visible thing, but it's not all about that.
Yeah, I would say the most important thing is really understanding your customer, understanding the consumer. And at EasyJet, I think we've succeeded in that. We've listened to our customers, and as a result of that, we've, for example, in Tel Aviv, we've added destinations, added routes to 9 different destinations across Europe. We've listened to our customer and launched flights to Paris, which will begin next month. We've listened to the business traveller, and we've put in place frequencies convenient for the business traveller, so we now fly double daily between London Luton and Tel Aviv. There are a number of things which make a successful low-cost carrier, one of which is that the airline, we always say a low-cost carrier has to be born rather than made. It's very difficult to take a legacy carrier, strip out those legacy costs, and then become a low-cost carrier overnight. That's one of the components to our business model, but I would say the most important one is listening to the consumer and putting in place what the consumer wants.
Okay, now we know probably most of our personal needs when we go on airplane, but the other guys, can you tell us what are the most interesting and common questions you get from your customers? Like, what are the basic needs they're talking about?
I can tell you about our customers, it's always about how do I get elite status faster. Our customers actually want to get the most value for their money. So they actually like to get the lounge access, they like to get the upgrades, they like to get the points, spending a lot of time in trying to demystify what is the value of a point, how to best use your miles and points. To the point about clarity, we show in our search results not the cheapest ticket, but the best value ticket. So the one that would incorporate your miles and points into the ticket. So a slightly more expensive ticket, if you're One Can United, it might be the right thing for you to do because you have a higher chance of getting that upgrade.
And
So
you see like, growing understanding of the customers, of your service, of the points, for example?
So steady growth, people, despite what you might think about millennials or hipsters, they actually like the VIP treatment. They just want to get it sooner rather than later. They want to spend the least amount of money they need in order to get to that next step. And especially as you relate again, don't forget that business travelers are the lion's share of the market. They are the high margin customers for the airlines. The airlines actually have a lot to give back to them if they would know what their value is. And for us at Superfly, it's all about helping airlines understand who are the right consumers to give them these benefits. But there's nothing like coming up to the gate, getting your economy class ticket replaced with a 1A ticket that would get you up into business class. They go crazy over it. And technology is helping them better understand the offers that are out there and maximize the value of the money that they're spending into those offers. So definitely we're seeing a steady growth of people wanting to get into that class who maybe don't have their parents' loyalty to a specific airline.
Tal, what are the most differences you find between business customers and everyone else?
So what we learn more mainly from our clients, from event planners, and it's interesting, I think, because I'm talking from a viewpoint of the industry of events growing very fast on people that are not event professionals, and therefore they're attracting a new kind of business and international visitors to countries they're organizing the event in, which are more, let's call them SMB in a way. So they're not these high-end business professionals, but there are sometimes, as we said, startups and internet entrepreneurs. They could be a lot of different business people, professional people, so their needs are interestingly somewhere in the middle. I'm sure that it's also with regards to more mainstream professional people, but they do want to take advantage of the fact that they're traveling to a specific location and maybe have some fun as well if it's a weekend or something of that sort. But also mainly I think they're hungry. So hungry maybe also technically, but also hungry for business development, for business opportunities. So what we see with the attendees to the events are using Evolero is more people looking to, in a way, use the networking opportunities they get from platforms like us and schedule their whole travel accommodation time spent somewhere in accordance to that. So I have to add that we're working very hard on collaborating with services that would allow this flexibility in a way, because things change very fast for the audience that we cater to, and we want to help them be more flexible, keep the low cost, and be able to have more meetings, more opportunities while they're traveling.
Amir, I guess customer service is a huge thing for you. And how much effort do you put in it?
Well, as a service company, we put a tremendous amount of work on our customer service qualities. I think that the virtues we are trying to understand in our customer support team is not just what other companies look at support, just solving the problem, being professional. We understand that when people reach customer support, they are at distress, and that's an emotional reaction, not a logic reaction. And understanding the virtues required to solve emotional problems are very different than solving logical problems. So for example, when someone calling you and complaining like, hey, I just reached an apartment and it hasn't been cleaned yet, he is at some sort of distress, he's also upset, but just solving the logical point of the problem would not just relax him. You have to understand that you need also to address his emotional state. And
So it's sort of a psychological for
so
the guest.
exactly, and we put huge, tremendous effort on compassion and caring, not only on the professional side and how to solve things quickly, but also how to make them feel that we are on top of things and to relax them under distress.
Manolis, it sounds pretty familiar for you, I'm sure.
Well, it is, but however, most of our clients are destination and government authorities, so most of the requests that we're getting is to offer consulting advice in market intelligence issues, how the competitors are performing and what can they do to successfully compete with them, what kind of product development they need to do, what kind of tourism infrastructure they need to develop on their destinations to better enhance the visitor experience. Things which mostly has to do with the macro perspective of the destination rather than the consumer, the customer service one.
Yeah, Ben?
To your previous question, what do the customers want? In terms of the hotel industry perspective, I think obviously what we discussed before, it's firstly price, then location, and then amenities, amenities, amenities. That's whether you're a business traveler, an internet entrepreneur, or a young couple or family, the most important thing is what we're feeling is those comforts. So if I'm an internet entrepreneur, I need Wi-Fi. And whether it's couples and families traveling across the US, it's all the small comforts like breakfast, parking. We've had all sorts of things like people that have only booked hotels that are pet friendly. So we've had all sorts of insane requests, but by far amenities is it's our comforts as consumers. And in terms of having a customer service orientation, I think one of the leading values at Rumor is customer experience. We call our customer service team, or we say we don't have a customer service team. We call it customer experience. And that's because it's really an extension of our brand, of our marketing. At every touch point that a customer has with Rumor, whether it's through Twitter or through a phone call, because a customer needs support, then that's an opportunity, obviously, to help them resolve their issues and wow them. It's always about providing more, giving them more than what they paid for all the time.
All right, before we continue, Neil wanted to show some facts, some numbers.
Great. Okay, so just a bit of a celebration, really, of the growth of Israeli connectivity, and that's been one of the key drivers to the increase in the availability of low-cost flights and the ability for people to travel places and do other things that these guys are facilitating as well. We've got 3 or 4 slides that talks about that growth in low-cost connectivity, the fantastic range of destinations that are now available from Israel. We don't have a lot of time, so let me just skip to talk about Open Skies and the development of Open Skies and what that has facilitated in terms of connectivity to and from Israel. EasyJet was a massive supporter of Open Skies because we know it delivers significant economic benefits. We know that it is beneficial to the individual consumer because it lowers the cost of air travel. We know that it's beneficial to the business traveler because it increases connectivity, it allows people to travel to Tel Aviv to have meetings in Israel. We know that it's beneficial to the Israeli tourism industry, hugely beneficial to the Israeli tourism industry because it brings people here to Israel to spend their pounds, their euros, their dollars, well, their pounds and their euros anyway, because of Open Skies, in Israel, benefiting the Israeli economy. And we're really glad about the expansion that EasyJet's been able to take place as a result of that. We've got a graph here which shows the exponential growth in traffic between Tel Aviv and Europe over the past few years. EasyJet was the largest growing carrier in Tel Aviv Ben Gurion last year, 55% growth year on year. And we expect to grow further in the future. So we're very excited about our future here in Israel. And just the final slide in this deck, which mentions some of the highlights for EasyJet. Both this year and in last year, we surpassed the 1 million passenger mark here in Israel. We introduced 4 new routes to our network. So in addition to London and Manchester, Basel and Geneva and Rome, we also fly to Milan and Paris and Berlin, and we added Gatwick in London in addition to London Luton. We're the 3rd largest carrier in Tel Aviv, behind El Al and Turkish Airlines, and the fastest growing carrier in Tel Aviv. That's all I'm going to say about that, but it really is a cause for celebration, the Open Skies agreement and the improvement in connectivity across Israel.
Thank you, Neil. I would like to talk few seconds about the Israeli customer. Manoli said to know how familiar you are with the daily questions or necessities of the Israeli customers, but you know, guys, that Israeli customer is very demanding. And he demands not only to get the best price for the service he gets, but also not to fall in any trap. And when it comes to accommodation, for example, his suspicious way of looking at the reality is sometimes right, because in some points people had those tourist traps all over the world, and some points people had those promises and didn't get the service they were paying for. So the question is, how can you actually make those suspicious customers more relaxed when they pay less?
I think trust, it's a huge issue. I think a lot of it has got to do with if you're a startup and your storefront is your website or your app, then there's a lot of the content and design is broadcasts a certain message. which is a huge challenge for especially a startup that's offering low-cost accommodation. So a lot of it goes into the message that you broadcast from your product. And then there's things that are much more related to the customer experience, which is a protection, insurance, some sort of guarantee. We're always there for you and we'll always take care of you. That's something that we put a very strong emphasis on. In terms of the Israeli chutzpah, I would say, they are tough customers. We love them at Rumor because Israelis always want to outsmart and beat the system. And that's one of the things that we're let's say, democratizing at Rumor is you can book your hotel at full price, or you can book your hotel from someone that couldn't make it, got screwed and couldn't cancel. Israelis jump on that straight away because people are selling their rooms at half the price. It's the same room that you can buy on Expedia or Booking.com, and Israelis, among other consumers, are happy to find a way to outsmart the system.
But just one second, they will ask you, why do they cancel the room?
The buyers, the Israeli
buyers.
customers, we haven't experienced a suspicious buyer saying, "Hey, why is it so much cheaper?" They're much more eager to go ahead and try it. And I think, at least for us, there was a challenge in the early days of how do we broadcast that this is not a gimmick. There's no reason to be suspicious. This is a regular hotel room that you book with a credit card, and when you get there, you check in and you have a place to sleep. So again, Israelis were early adopters. They weren't so suspicious, but it's definitely a challenge, I think.
All right.
I actually had the surprisingly inverted experience. We started Guesty here in Israel, and then we relocated to San Francisco. And surprisingly, credibility was much bigger problem in San Francisco because people were reluctant to give you access to their properties and to their livelihood. And in Israel, people trust you immediately, but then they were more price sensitive and much less forgiving for errors and mistakes. So they are demanding, they are less forgiving if you make a mistake with their profiles or make a mistake with their property versus the Americans, where the Americans are much more credibility oriented. They need to trust you first, but once they trust you, they're like, sure, it happens, mistakes happens, and they don't argue about prices at all, which is a huge difference.
Jonathan, same question. How do you keep your customers Tal, you want to say something before? I'm sorry.
So actually, there are two interesting points for us. One would be actually the event ticket price as a part of maybe a business tourist decision. So we always talk to our clients about that because that's an essential part of setting the whole online presence. And it's a branding decision for events in a very strong way, mainly if they're not very known, because free is actually a branding that's interesting. It's not always bad. It has its issues because no shows might be higher, but it also has an appeal by itself because it's showing that this is like an open community, open economy kind of approach for an event. So that's an interesting discussion that really has a lot of effect on the decision whether to buy that ticket and to be a part of that, to have it a part of your traveling to this place or to go specifically. So in that end, what we try to help with is help, and you said at the beginning that the trust element is important. For events, it's a lot about the showcasing the benefits as fast as you can alongside the price. So you want to show the networking opportunities that you can have or the content as fast as possible. Usually best way to do so would be to derive it from the actual people, from content coming from what speakers are tweeting about, or just making it very, very visible and very close to where the pricing is. So that's regarding that. Regarding us facing our clients, which are event planners, then the trust issue becomes very serious because that's event planning. Think about your wedding day. You wouldn't go with something free. Maybe you would, but your wife probably would not. It's a serious thing, and everyone are watching you, so free is very risky. Low cost is very risky. And I'm talking now about also people that we are almost B2C on this aspect, so people they look for cost effective. We're very careful there, and trust is hugely important.
One comment about the maybe the frequent flyers, the heavy travelers, very sophisticated customers, very aware of the different rules and regulations. And I think maybe one comment is the way they perceive the Israeli airline, El Al. They're much harsher on El Al because they have much higher expectations of it. So sometimes for the same level of service, El Al and maybe another airline, they'll be a lot harsher on their own, expecting that, you know, whatever, Israel, Innovation Center, Startup Nation have much higher expectations of the airline and are very disgruntled with not only the level of service, but the fact that, you know, the airline is not innovating. I think many of them are kind of hoping for EasyJet and some of the low-cost airlines to push El Al enough to the wall, to the point where they actually will have to respond and lower the rates, improve the value of the product, et cetera. So at least for us, we're hearing a lot of feedback on the Israeli-owned airline, very harsh feedback of that.
Now, in this growing market, it becomes not really easy to be seen. So before we finish, I would like anyone here to give just one quick tip to be seen, for your company to be seen, of course, in this huge market that is so packed.
I can start and let you guys take it from there. I think that many of the companies here are in the business of empowering someone to do something for their own businesses. And on that aspect, I have to say that a good tip would be to help them be your promoters. Give them tools to promote themselves in a way that makes them look great and help them do it really quickly and looking very good. And obviously, they're being your presenters of what you offer. So that's my tip.
One quick comment, and I share this with a bunch of startups. The best way to get traffic in travel is to spend money to get traffic in travel. Despite what we spoke about in the earlier panel, travel is not viral. The fact that I went somewhere doesn't mean that my friends went there. And you need to spend money, efficiently. Companies like Expedia and Priceline, even though they're huge brands, are spending literally billions of dollars on keywords, buying up everything that's out there. And there's a bunch of beautiful startups, beautiful brands with amazing experiences that nobody visits their site. Nobody ever seen it because they haven't budgeted the marketing budget to spend on bringing traffic in. So my recommendation for any travel brand or definitely any startup is to figure out early how to spend money efficiently to bring customers to your site.
Unique content. I think the biggest inspiration here, or best example, is Airbnb's Neighborhoods. You should check it out. They're showing up in terms of SEO all the time because they've created something about neighborhoods in New York, Boston, San Francisco that no Expedia, Booking.com, or any other website can provide. So unique content.
May I add something for destination authorities, that they should heavily invest to know better their products, collect intelligence about their markets, know their tourists, know what they need, know how they need to diversify their products to be competitive in the global travel market. And a very important trend for the destination management organizations to successfully integrate their services within the other central government services. That's a major trend we see lately. Lots of economic development agencies and destination management authorities coming together in order to have an integrated approach in tourism planning, management and marketing.
Yeah, I would add to the point made around efficiency. I think it's very important that all businesses, in particular through a startup phase, are very focused on exactly what they want to achieve and deploy their limited resources effectively. I think it's that laser-like focus on what the objective is and how we reach that objective, which makes a successful business.
So I'd like to thank very much Neil, Ben, Manolis, Amiad, Tal, and Jonathan. Thank you very much for being with us today.